Welcome to Some of My Friends Read Comics. Merry Christmas, Vince.
Hey, I'm Monkey Joe.
Merry Christmas, Chris.
Looks like a bunch of 30-year-old losers in here.
And Merry Christmas, me. Hello, everyone. I'm Kia. Welcome to the show. Yes, today we are reading a very fun Christmas comic. Because Christmas is, this Monday? This Sunday?
It's coming up, yes.
Coming up.
I was trying to get confused on when this is coming out versus when we're recording it. Yes, it's still in the future.
Figured it out.
But Star Wars is in the past.
Star Wars is in the past. Oh my gosh, yeah.
How about that Death Star? Huh?
Yeah, I can't wait for Rogue 2. Am I right?
Oh, that one's the one I'm really excited about. I'm confused as to why they didn't just start with Rogue 4 though, like they did with the originals. Anyways, Merry Christmas. For Christmas this year, we decided to read a fun comic from one of my favorite superhero teams, the Great Lakes Avengers. But actually, during Christmas, they were the Great Lakes X-Men, and their Great Lakes X-Men, the GLX-Mas holiday special. Boy, it's already getting confusing, huh? It tends to happen with the superhero community. Oh, boy. All right. So the Great Lakes Avengers. Where do we start with these guys? Chris, they had some ties with the West Coast Avengers, right? What's going on with that?
Yep, they were originally created in the 80s. I think they were kind of a comedy team when John Byrne created them as part of his West Coast Avengers run. Hawkeye had left the regular West Coast Avengers. He's like, I'm going to join a new team. And he found these guys, pretty much the cast that we see in this book with a couple of additions.
Wait a second. Isn't Hawkeye also the guy who formed the West Coast Avengers?
Yes.
And then he decided, okay, I'm through with y'all. I'm going to go form another team?
He's like the iWorks of the Avengers.
He's basically working his way down. Like, eventually it's going to be like the Mexico Avengers.
After that, he did the Thunderbolts, which is kind of as low as you can go, really. Bunch of renegade villains who aren't even really superheroes. But, yeah, poor Hawkeye. Doesn't get any respect. Anyways. So this book that we are reading is not from the 80s. It's from the mid-2000s by Dan Slott. And so he kind of reinvented them a little bit. Maybe not reinvented, but kind of brought them back into the limelight. They had been treated as a joke. In that Deadpool episode we did a while back, they had showed up as a joke team. In the Thunderbolts, they had showed up as a joke team. But now he kind of brings them to the forefront with their own miniseries, GLA Misassembled. And then after that, we get the Christmas special that we'll talk about when we get there. But the actual miniseries itself, this was right after the Avengers had been disassembled. It was a big old event. So GLA Misassembled. Funny title, right? And he also brought back a little character called Squirrel Girl. And wow, if you're reading comics now, Squirrel Girl, one of the best series to read out there. It's wonderful. But am I correct in saying that this is her very first appearance since her
first appearance?
Like one random single first appearance in the early 90s, right?
As far as I know, I think she might have been in like a backup story of some kind, but I don't think she had been in anything in years for sure.
Yeah, if you've read it, it's a really weird story where she kind of teams up with Iron Man. Really, she just wants to hang out with Iron Man, and Iron Man is not having any of it. And Dr. Doom shows up, and Squirrel Girl and her pet squirrel, Monkey Joe, they beat Iron Man. And that's it.
Well, they beat Dr. Doom.
I'm sorry. No, I misspoke. I said Iron Man. They beat Dr. Doom because Dr. Doom shows up and for whatever reason has some beef and gets pelted with nuts and covered with squirrels. And
squirrels get in his armor. That's disgusting.
And it's not even a Doom bot. It's the legit Dr. Doom.
It's the legit Dr. Doom, 100%, no question about it. So yeah, this character was, again, kind of a joke character who hadn't really been seen, and so he decides to bring them all together. If you had trouble finding this thing, which I kind of did for a little while, it's been re-released, and Squirrel Girl has gotten so popular as the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl and the Great Lakes Avengers. So you can look for it under that name. Let's jump right into it. Issue 1 is really all about Mr. Immortal, one of the main characters, I guess the leader of the team, right? Yeah. And this poor guy, cannot die. Has a terrible life. His parents die. He ends up in an abusive home. His girlfriend leaves him. Just all throughout life, he's been having terrible things. And every time someone dies, for some reason, there's this evil. I don't know if it's evil, but there's like this black figure that's talking to him. I think we get the name later. Is that Death Urge?
Death Urge.
Death Urge.
Death Urge, yeah.
It's
the worst name.
Death Urge.
And I can't really figure out what this guy is. Is he like the Grim Reaper?
He kind of is.
He's one of them, yes.
But not the Grim Reaper. But not
he's
the villain,
one-
the Grim Reaper, who's like sometimes a Spider-Man hero.
Oh, you're right. There is a real villain called the Grim Reaper. That's a bad
Yeah.
name. Anyways,
But this is a comedy book I want to establish.
it's a comedy. It starts off dark. We should say every issue starts off with introductions from Squirrel Girl, who's like, kind of lightens the mood a little bit and has some random aside. I think, Chris, your quote about all the 30-year-old nerds. Yeah, no, kids don't read comics anymore. It's fine.
Yeah, because it was getting dark, and then Grasshopper shows up and he goes, don't worry about it. Only 30-year-old overweight nerds are reading this, and I'm like, first of all,
wait a minute.
of the 2/3, okay, at least Chris is not overweight. I know that.
Yeah, I'm underweight, assholes.
Vince, you've been exercising a lot, so you're okay.
I'm technically overweight, but then again, so is Tony Parker. So,
I think you're tall. Yeah, you're just tall.
But and none of us live with our parents, so screw you, Grasshopper.
Successful, yeah, very successful. But yeah, it does start off with Squirrel Girl saying like, "Hey, I'm not even in the first issue, but I just kind of wanted to come in and say hi." And Grasshopper says, "Hey, me too. Never waste a chance for a good cameo, right?"
And then page 2 is our lead hero blowing his brains out, literally, and spelling the issue title in his blood.
It's great. What a great way to open a miniseries, right?
Actually, it really is, because like it does this weird like jokiness with death that I don't see very well done out of comics or almost literature. Like it's got a humorous tone to the fact that like he's a character who's like has all this tragedy, which is nice and somber, mixed with I can't die, and this isn't funny, but it's funny at the same time because it's not like a logical superhero trait. It's really weird, but it really sets the tone, I think, well for the book. Maybe the book doesn't fully deliver on it, but I really like it.
Yeah, as first issues go, this first issue is amazingly good.
Yeah, it's great. I also, one of the things that really helps with that dark tone and kind of mixing it with the comedy is kind of towards the end, almost at the end of every scene, there's a little panel at the end with Monkey Joe says, and it's like, Monkey Joe says suicide is no joke, kids, or something dumb like that. Which is like, hey, basically every scene gets darker and darker and darker until it ends with that, which is, again, very well executed.
And Paul Pelletier does a really good job of art. Like there's the one panel where him and Dethurge and Mr. Immortal's like a 5-year-old are playing patty cake in the middle of the street. It's just a really well drawn panel. Like
he does such a good job in it. Like his faces in particular. There's something about his faces that are very expressive without being like, I don't know, kind of cartoony, without being overly cartoony. Just really works well for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think his panel construction is good too.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned the author's name either. The writer, Dan Slott. He's still working. Does a ton of great stuff. Famous for what? He had a great run on She-Hulk and
he's written for Spider-Man.
He's been writing Spider-Man for the last 10 years now.
Yeah. But he's been doing a wonderful job. He kind of he
has he.
I like
think
it.
so. I think so.
I've liked Spider-Man since he took it over in 2007. I really have. I liked Spider-Verse. I even like this kind of like weird run right now where Spider-Man's like a business leader in China. It doesn't make any sense, but I enjoy it.
Where he's baby Iron Man. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that's not going to last long, but it's fun for now.
I don't know if it's Dan Slott or it's just the fact that I am incredibly tolerant of any Spider-Man story. Like I will read any Spider-Man story.
I think that's it. Anyway, so back to GLA. This poor guy cannot kill himself, and he realizes, well, oh wait, no. So first of all, he can't catch a break. Tries to kill himself. Realizes, oh, okay, I can't kill myself at all. And decides, hey, I'll become a superhero. But he is not a good superhero at all. Because the bank robbers he doesn't have any other powers. The bank robbers run past him and
he just gets
shoot
shot.
him and he's dead. Yeah.
Hilarious.
Poor
It
guy.
actually is a really funny book. I know that like it doesn't sound like we're like selling it, but it does the tone really well.
It really does. A lot. So much of the story is told with the art, which is great. Um, but so he decides, hey, I'm going to put an ad out in the paper, see if there's any super friends around. I think he actually uses that terminology. Hey, let's be super friends. And who answers the ad? There's a doorman who has the power to like be a door, like I don't know, into
Kind
another
of like
dimension.
Cloak and Dagger.
Just through a wall. Yeah, kind of that kind of thing.
Sort of, but
Uh,
only for like things that are next to each other.
Right. There's Flatman, who's basically just Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four.
But flat.
He can stretch, but he's flat. And he looks smart, but as things progress, he appears to be very stupid. Very, very stupid. There's Big Bertha, who is a supermodel who has the power to grow big, and like very fat. And there's some fun women's issues that come up later about that. We've got Dina Soar, who is a flying pink dinosaur thing. Do we actually find out where she's from or what's going on with her?
I don't think so.
Yeah, she's an alien from some planet.
We kind of find out her deal in issue 4, but
Yeah, a little bit.
And
Flying
in the
pink alien
special.
thing.
or is it in the special? Yeah.
Yeah. They talk about like she comes back a little bit. And we talk about her some more. Yeah, and then there's Leatherboy, who was at the wrong thing.
He was seeking men of women in action, and
Yeah. Oh boy. But so now he's got a team by his side. But they are still basically a terrible team.
they are terrible teams. There's a really great page that has like 4 3-panel strips that shows them like not being very good heroes. My favorite is Flatman, who a guy's looking to get into his house, so Flatman goes under the door and like unlocks it and is like, "I've helped you, sir," and then the guy just like robs the house.
Yeah, sucker.
It's like Flatman's like, "I'm so good at my job,"
Flat man, what an idiot.
and Dinosaur is just like helping get kids balloons. I don't know if we mentioned they're the Great Lakes Avengers, which means they basically stop crime around Michigan. And the kind of joke is
Wisconsin, yeah.
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I guess the joke is that there's nothing really interesting happening there. I think they just throw out like the funniest naming Wisconsin towns just as a joke. This book.
Yeah.
Yep.
Something does happen though. Some supervillains attack a modeling gig that Big Bertha has. Oh no! She calls her friends. She has to go to a phone booth to call them. And they're like, "All right, let's go over in." This might be my favorite joke of the series. The GLA Quinjetta, just Volkswagen Jetta with GLA painted on the side. And so they drive over there, but by the time they get there, the Avengers, the real Avengers, are already there, and they told Big Bertha to sit down so she doesn't get hurt. It does not go well for the Great Lakes Avengers. And they're being attacked by the Animen, who we talked about way back in our X-Men issue.
Oh yeah, the X-Men issue.
Yeah, but it's a new version of the Animen with a pig man, a rabbit man, a giraffe man.
Yeah, I saw the giraffe person.
That giraffe person was pretty cool. I like him. Anyways, Mr. Immortal is bummed about it. He, I guess at this point, is now sleeping with Dinosaur. They're in bed together, and he's like, "Oh, all right, I'm doing it. I'm going to call quits on the team. That's it." And he's going out to tell them, there's a news flash. The Avengers are disassembled. Oh, no. Well, hey, that means we're the real Avengers now. What? Oh, my God, cool. Let's go on patrol. And Mr. Immortal is, like, pumped and excited again, and he's ready to be a superhero team. And they run into... I guess they hear about it on police scanners, but they run into... what's this guy's name? This electricity guy?
Maelstrom.
Maelstrom, yeah. He's like an Avengers villain.
Is he real?
Yeah, he's a Quasar villain. He was in Marvel Team Up or 2-in-1, one of those books way back in the 70s.
Okay. All right. So some random Avengers villain who has like electricity powers. What's his deal? I couldn't really figure out exactly what his deal was from this.
But I didn't really mind, and I think I remember reading this
Yeah.
book pretty early when I was into the Marvel universe, and like the fact that like I didn't know Squirrel Girl's thing, and I didn't know that these people had been in a Deadpool issue that I guess we actually read for Deadpool last year, earlier this year. Like it didn't seem to matter.
Yeah.
It does a really
Yeah,
good
he
job.
did a really good job of
Mm-hmm.
introducing these people for fresh reader, while also kind of, not ignoring the fact that they do exist in this big shared universe. It
Right.
worked really well.
Right, they do reference like that Hawkeye teamed up with them. They mention
Mm-hmm.
him by name in that first Avengers, team up thing, where the Flat Man's like, "Hey, Hawkeye," they're like, "Calm down."
Yeah. We don't want to. Yeah, be cool, dude. Be cool. So during this big fight, Mr. Immortal gets like stabbed by lightning or something, and he dies for a little while. His deaths never really last very long. He tends to come back pretty quickly, and it's not like a healing factor thing either. I don't know exactly how his powers work, but it's pretty neat. We've got Dinosaur is like going over there to comfort him, and we haven't mentioned the fact that Dinosaur doesn't speak. She only like whistles, but Mr. Immortal can understand her for some reason.
Because they're like life bonded, basically.
Yeah, we find that out in the Christmas special. Why
Yeah.
he can understand her and nobody else can. It's actually pretty sweet.
Well, I mean,
It's
the part
very
that they're life bonded is kind of established pretty quickly, but because
Yeah.
everyone else is like, how does he know what she's saying?
Mm-hmm. She comes over to him, and she's talking to him, and he is dead and dying, but like getting back up. And Dinosaur gets stabbed by lightning, and she cannot come back to life. So she is dead. And guess who shows up? It's Deathurge, or whatever, and takes her away. Also, we get a weird flashback sequence when we learn that Mr. Immortal's old girlfriend who left didn't just leave; she killed herself, which is also depressing. Like, what a depressing button on this issue. Like, oh, your girlfriend's dead, but wait, let's also remind you that your old girlfriend killed herself. Ugh.
Yeah, like
this was pretty intense.
Yeah.
I think the comedy really works to when this happens. I was just like, oh shit.
Yeah, there's a few moments in this book, like this is one of them, where it just like it really hits you like a ton of bricks. And I don't know, I think Dan Harmon talked about this when he talks about like using certain characters to hit like emotional beats really well. And it's like this kind of concept of like if you hit the comedy and you make it like silly and absurd, that when you hit it with the real, it really hits. But if you were always doing a book that was like real, and like serious,
It's easy to get bored of that. Yeah.
Yeah, you get bored of it. It does, like, the highs aren't as high and the lows aren't as low. It's kind of just like evens out. And so I think that this book is doing something really sneaky. I don't know. There's probably a masterclass you could do in just this first issue of figuring out how it does all this establishing all these characters, really hits the emotional beats really well, and is funny despite like its main character having like parents die in childbirth, and his other dad dying, and then his girlfriend killing himself. Yet it's a comedy, and it is funny.
Yeah.
And it's not
really
like all
is.
over the map, and it's not like tonally like all over the map. You're like, this book doesn't know what the fuck it wants to be. Like, it knows what it wants to be. It's really fascinating.
There's also we should mention at this point, because this is the end of issue 1, but every issue is bookended by these moments where they're calling it the end of everything, and that's why that's when Mr. Immortal has blown his brains out onto the floor, and this issue ends with him holding the gun up to his head, which what a great panel to end on. But every issue from here on out, like, it always begins and ends with this moment at the end of things, which they'll build up to, but it's just kind of like, whoa, okay, what's going on? Why is there catastrophe? And so technically every issue is like a flashback leading up to this moment. There's a few jokes about that too, where I think Monkey Joe says a flashback within a flashback is just sloppy storytelling, or something to that effect.
Yeah, he does that Jim Gaffigan thing really well, where he's like getting in front of the audience criticizing the book.
Yeah. It's really good, really good. So issue 2 is at the funeral. That's where we start. Mr. Immortal is every time Death Urge shows up and talks to Mr. Immortal, nobody else can see him, and so Mr. Immortal just looks crazy. He's already looking crazy because basically throughout the rest of the series he's a wreck. His girlfriend is dead, and he just is not happy with life.
And Death
but
Urge, Death Urge is also a real character, by the way, an obscure character from like the 70s or early 80s.
Really?
I figured it would have to be with a name like that. I would assume so.
It's funny though because he's like talking, going crazy, and they're like, well, maybe he's just talking to Flat Man, is what everybody else says, and like Flat Man's like, a flat pane. Maybe we just can't see him because he's 2-dimensional. And I was like, that's a funny joke.
Yeah, but then he turns and nah, I'm right here.
That's a funny joke too because you can see him in the panel where they're like, maybe he's there and we can't see him.
And there's just this line.
Yeah, there's just a line there that is him.
Yeah, I like that a lot. But we meet a new character, Grasshopper. This is a new creation, right, for this series, Grasshopper. Okay, who is very much he works for the Roxxon Oil Corporation. Yeah, and he's like his sort of origin story that he goes through real quick reminds me very much of kind of like a Spider-Man kind of thing mixed with I don't know, what is there a particular person he's parodying here?
Yeah, I would say he's just kind of like a Steve Ditko type of character because like Speedball maybe
Gotcha.
even Squirrel Girl is a Steve Ditko character.
And yeah, it's kind of corny where he's just like, hey, yeah, I work for this company but I'm like a secret person in this grasshopper suit. Whoa, my name is whatever, and I'm the Grasshopper. Watch out, world. Like it's pretty fun watching him bounce around and be a superhero. He does a good job of it. Anyway, so now they're like down on members, and so they go out looking for new heroes. And they are constantly being rejected. We get this giant montage. Most of this issue is a montage of all these heroes rejecting them. I think my favorite is Moon Knight, who like says, "No, I have the Moon Knight must remain an urban myth." And this is my favorite. Monkey Joe says. He says, "A vigilante operating as an urban myth only works for the first year of continuity. Tops." I really like that.
That one was funny. I do like this. Like they all get the same speech of like, I'm a loner. I work best alone. They get it from Spider-Man and from Wolverine and from Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
All new Avengers.
Yeah. Oh, that's the joke. I didn't even get that. That's funny. Because they'd all join the Avengers within that year. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I really like that joke. And they like there's these quick like they go to
Power Pack shows up.
Everybody.
Power Pack. We see was it Katie Power, I think?
It's the littlest Power, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she rejects them too. It's like, oh boy, that's rough when the Power Pack is rejecting you. You've got then they go to the park and they run into Squirrel Girl, who is beating up a bunch of random hooligans, and they say, "Hey, we're with the Great Lakes Avengers. Do you want to come join us?"
I like that also, how the Great Lakes is always written in like a very small font when they're like, "We're the Avengers," but the Great Lakes like real small in there. I like that.
We're the Great Lakes Avengers. It's a wonderful joke. And she joins them, hooray! And they assemble and they go to they fight a bunch of like henchmen that
Hey, don't forget Batroc de Leaper. I am Batroc. I leap.
I like that.
I love Batroc's brigade, bringing them back.
Oh, he has a team. He is from the Winter Soldier. He jumps at the beginning of the movie on a boat.
It's true.
Was that him? Was that Batroc?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They need to bring Batroc's brigade into the movies. Now we just need Machete.
We put them on. We put them on Shield. That's where Batroc de Leaper can fight. He can fight Agents of Shield.
Yeah, that's probably
Zarin the Weapons Master.
These people.
So they're all real, also.
Oh yeah.
Everybody in this book is real.
Most everybody, yeah.
Jeez,
Batroc is a Jack Kirby character from like the 60s.
No, I know Batroc. I didn't know Batroc's brigade was real though.
Yeah, they're from I think the 80s Captain America. That might not be their first appearance, but that's where I know them from.
Hey, what do you mean you didn't know it was real? It's in the comic book, therefore it is real.
Well, I just assumed that like this book was so creative that Dan Slott just created all these characters, but that doesn't make sense, right?
How many of the characters did you not know who they were even now, Vince? When they're doing that like roll call?
I saw Aranya. I saw her.
Oh,
Our Rania
Mhm.
watch. I think she's been in 3 or 4 of our books now, which doesn't make sense.
She shows up always, yeah.
she's dead, isn't she? Or is she just gone?
She may be dead
think
or gone.
she's-
I saw Iron
Yeah, she's one of
Fist
those.
and Luke Cage, and I think his name is Paladin, not Swordsman from the Thunderbolts, right?
Paladin, yeah, we talked about him in
Not from the
Avengers.
Thunderbolts, though. Is he from the Thunderbolts?
He's on the top
But-
left on one of the montage pages. There's a bear. I think his name may be Sasquatch.
Nope.
Nope.
Wrong.
Who's the goblin looking person there?
Sleepwalker?
Is that a hero? He looks like a villain.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, he looks like
Sleepwalker.
one. I've
Who's the
never
dude
seen
with
that
like
person
15
either.
colors and sunglasses with the green and the yellow and the blue and the red?
I
And
believe that's Captain Ultra.
I've never heard of that guy. I recognize what's his name? Dr. Voodoo? Is that his name?
Brother
Brother Voodoo. That's it. I like him. He's on the Avengers now.
I see Solomon Grundy with the chalkboard that says no.
That's awesome,
not
Andy.
Yeah.
And I don't know who the dude that has Marvel with. I don't know half of these dudes, Chris. I honestly don't.
Do you know the guy in the top right? I bet you know him.
The one with the orange and the pointies. Is that Beta Ray Bill?
Nope.
Yeah. What?
Nope.
I thought it was Beta Ray Bill.
He's
It's not?
got
Who is that?
a cape like Thor. So
That's Prodigy.
I've never heard of him either. All right, I guess I didn't know as many as I thought either.
Read all your Civil War tie-in books, and you'll see him get arrested. Let's see. What about the guy who says no in Spanish?
isn't no in Spanish just no? That's not Batroc
Yes,
the Leaper.
But it has an upside down exclamation point at the front. That's how you know it's in Spanish. Who is that guy? He looks like Inigo Montoya.
Is that Zorro?
That's who he is.
Yes. It's not Zorro, but you're warm.
It's Zorro.
Is it Oraz? They just spell his
It's
name back.
It's El Aguila, the eagle.
Nope.
Oh, no. All right, I'm not going to do the other page of this, but on this one page still, who's that guy in the bottom left with blue? And he has literally the word Marvel written on him. Who is that? Did we already talk about that?
Yeah, I
Who
don't
is
know.
that?
I have no
Does
idea.
anyone know who that is?
I don't even, that one stumped me.
Okay, I think maybe he's a Marvel fanboy. He just walks around with a Marvel shirt on. That could be it.
Maybe that's a horribly colored Captain Marvel Grant Morrison version, but just colored incorrectly and with his name.
Oh, Marvel Boy. Yeah, I bet that's him.
It sort of looks like him, but if you miscolored his hair.
Oh,
So even
yeah,
the colorist didn't know who this guy was. All right, moving on. Squirrel Girl has joined the team. This book is a lot like X-Force or X-Statix. A lot.
Yeah. Because a lot of people die. Anyway, so Squirrel Girl joins the team. They go fight Batroc and Batroc's brigade. And who else is fighting them? Hey, Grasshopper. He'd already run into them, and he was fighting them too. And so hey, Grasshopper, do you want to join the team? And he says, yeah. And then then the weapons master, whatever his name is, throws a sigh, and it goes right through Doorman, and it stabs Grasshopper in the fucking head. And Grasshopper is dead 5 seconds after joining the team. Oh, poor guy. Monkey Joe says 5.8 seconds, a new record. Oh, poor Grasshopper.
This is really like X-Statix. X-Statix is another pleasant book.
Somebody has died literally every single issue. Yeah.
I preferred this to X-Statix because this I was like, oh, I see where this fits into continuity. Whereas X-Statix, I was like, this makes no sense.
X-Statix is a lot more jarring. Yeah. So Grasshopper dies. Oh, poor guy. And that's pretty much where this issue ends. Oh, Death Urge, of course, shows up to take Grasshopper away, and we do another flashback to flash forward to the end of everything, but we'll have to wait until another couple issues. Issue 3 is a little bit more focused on the other members of the team. This one was kind of narrated by Flatman, but he wasn't that important in the grand scheme of things.
I thought issue 3 was Big Bertha's issue.
Yeah, Big Bertha is mostly the focus of issue 3. At least she's narrating most of it. But it, again, doesn't really feel by the end of all the issues, it's all right. It's kind of the team story now. But she is, yeah, this is the one where we kind of talk a little bit more about a lot of women's issues. Not, I wouldn't say a lot of women's issues, because we get past them pretty quickly.
It does an interesting job. You're like, because it's like, what is it? Big Bertha, in order to go from being Big Bertha back to her normal supermodel self, she has bulimia and vomits the title of the book on the wall. Yep. And I'm like, okay, that's a bridge too far. But luckily, Monkey Joe is there to say, bulimia is never funny. And then also write into Marvel if you're offended by this. And then he gives Marvel.
Yeah, well, they did in the first issue too, where they said that nobody reads comics but a bunch of nerds. So yeah, Monkey Joe is there to let us know.
The title of the issue in Vomit is Mistaken Identity Crisis, which is pretty good.
That is Identity Crisis happening at this time?
Yes, it was.
With a lot of dueling narrators? What?
That's
a book we will never read for this.
A lot of characters being murdered.
But not raped.
Yeah, not okay. Thanks for bringing that up, Vince. I was gonna gloss right over that, but you brought it up. Yeah, there's no rape in this book, thankfully. Identity Crisis over at DC had a lot of that.
Written by Brad Meltzer, who now writes books about Harriet Tubman for children.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
He writes all these kid books like, who is Harriet Tubman? Who is George Washington Carver? And I'm like,
why does this guy think he can do everything? He was a mystery writer who then went to write superhero comics for DC that were terrible, and now he's writing books for children?
Yep.
All right, great. Anyways,
sidebar.
Sidebar for real. Jeez, hot take. We go back to the team. They are trying to deal with Mr. Immortal, who is really losing it. He's wearing Dina Sore's old outfit, with a pair of scissors, giant scissors, stabbed through his body. We did see those scissors earlier. They had been used in like some ribbon cutting ceremony, which is all the Great Lakes Avengers are good for these days.
And all he's doing is listening to Amy Mann and the Magnolia soundtrack.
Oh my god!
Yeah. And Monkey Joe says, "Friends don't let friends listen to the Magnolia soundtrack." I'm like, "Fuck you, Monkey Joe! I have every Amy Mann CD, and I love them." And yes, I was super depressed from 2007 to 2009, but that's not the point. And that was my Amy Mann high point. But don't worry about it. Let's just forget that.
Don't worry about it, man.
Amy Mann's good. I can't listen to her. If I listen to her like all day, I will be like really depressed when I come home. So. Maybe friends shouldn't let friends listen to Amy Mann, but she is really.
Let's move away from it. Let's move away from Amy Mann. How about that?
I like that Portlandia episode where Amy Mann was their house cleaner.
that was a good. Yeah. So most of this episode actually feels like it's just kind of it's Death Urge, going to talk to Maelstrom, the bad guy, for some reason, and like dealing with all this mystic shit and. The bad guy's like, oh, I'm an Eternal, but I'm also an Inhuman, and I'm also this thing and that thing. And I'm like, I'm
starting to check out here. I'm like, I don't care about the bad guy plot here. I just want to see like Mr. Immortal like stab scissors through his chest and listen to Amy Mann. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, let's go on with this. Yeah. And what's really exciting is right now Dr. Doom is like spying on the house. Oh no, he's gonna get his revenge on Squirrel Girl and Monkey Joe. We do get a little bit of reminder. They're talking at the clubhouse, like, oh, I beat Dr. Doom once, and this is where we get confirmation that it was the real Dr. Doom, not a Doombot either. But for whatever reason, everyone's running around investigating, trying to get clues to like where Maelstrom is. Flatman is talking to some scientist who's very excited to be talking to Mr. Fantastic until he learns it's not Mr. Fantastic. And Flatman's like, hey, give us the information you have, government guy. And he's like, it's all on our website, dude. Calm down. Relax. Yeah, it's a good time. And while everyone else is away, who's at home? Well, Monkey Joe is there on the internet looking up all the information they needed. Mr. Immortal is there, drunk, passed out. And who sneaks up on them but Dr. Doom? Oh, shit. Dr. Doom twists Mr. Immortal's head, his neck, breaks his neck, kills him. Don't worry, he'll be fine. He's immortal. And then he picks up Monkey Joe. Oh, God. Oh, God. And he squeezes the life out of Monkey Joe. Oh, my God. This was a heartbreaking moment in this comic book.
Monkey Joe, no!
Yeah.
Also, he's a squirrel named Monkey Joe. Let's. I don't know if we mentioned that ever. It's a squirrel
That was
named Monkey Joe.
That was, yeah. I hope we mentioned that at some point. Boy, no, we definitely mentioned it because that'd be really weird to think that it was a monkey.
But I do
it's
like because
definitely
Monkey Joe's like pullouts for the rest of the issue where he's like narrating things or like showing him like slowly dying. You know?
Yeah, and the very last one at the end when Big Bertha walks in on the home and she sees that Monkey Joe is dead. The Monkey Joe says it's just him dead with flies around his body. God, that is the perfect way to end an issue where the funniest character of the book has died. Yeah. Good stuff. At least I think it's the funniest character of the book. I'm sure people will disagree.
This is not the slapstick book I remember.
Monkey Joe, I love you. Goodbye, Monkey Joe.
I love it because I love right at the beginning of the next issue, like they show him like in little like angel wings with a halo, like doing his final narration. It's really cute.
And Squirrel Girl is crying during her opening little bit. Flat Man is yeah.
This reminds me a lot of the Irredeemable Ant-Man we talked about, where the ants were like slowly poisoned in their recap pages and were dying, like over the course of like 5 issues. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, there's the ant character that did all the recaps, and he got poisoned like in the first issue and was slowly dying over the course of the series. I think he died on the last issue. He goes, well, that's it for me. It was sad, but that reminds me a lot of this. This does a really good job of the recaps. Squirrel Girl's great in it. Monkey Joe, R.I.P.
Well, this is really funny. Death Urge shows up in squirrel form.
Yes,
like a squirrel form on skis to take away Joe's body. And the best part,
I don't know if we've described any of this. You really need to read this book if you haven't. Death Urge Squirrel is like, he looks like Death Urge, so he's like in all black with like white eyes and like a white flowing like Moon Knight cape just like behind him, and it's kind of amazing. And he's a squirrel. I mean, and so this makes me raise like other questions, like when other animals die, does Death Urge come like as like an elephant when an elephant dies? Like, what does he come at?
I mean, if he was a member, that elephant was a member of the Great Lakes Avengers, then probably yes.
Oh, maybe yeah. So Mr. Immortal, of course, being the only person who can see Death Urge, grabs him in squirrel form. Death Urge realizes, oh, I'm at a disadvantage here in squirrel form. And Mr. Immortal has been mad at Death Urge, and now he's drunk, and so he's just beating up Death Urge like crazy.
He has little white elf. He has little white squirrel gloves.
It's adorable. And for some reason they do more flashbacks about Mr. Immortal's past. I don't know. He's like, Death Urge is trying to get him to like stop beating him up. It's a weird moment. I don't know exactly how Mr. Immortal finally decides, like, hey, let's get going again. Like, it's time to perk back up. It was a little confusing to me, but I don't know. Something happened in there. Maybe I just missed it. It's okay.
Right.
I'm not going to reread it right now.
Right. And at the same time, this is when we find out Big Bertha has sat on the Doctor Doom and reveals that it's not actually Doctor Doom.
It wasn't even Doctor Doom. Who was it? Oh my God, you're not going to believe it.
Leather Boy.
It was Leather Boy the whole time. Oh, he showed up to the first meeting by accident, but he's back, and he was taking his revenge. Also, he was dressed as like a weird older version of the Doctor Doom costume that was a little bit more leathery and like brown and green as opposed to metal.
No, it was, and this is, I love this because this is a joke on Mark Waid's Doctor Doom appearances where he got magic powers and wore a leather costume. So he's wearing that costume. So it's a play on that issue. And I was like, oh, that's really funny because he's like, oh, Dr. Doom's wearing leather now, eh? I like this.
That is funny. All right. So they go out to fight the big final villain because he's ready to do his thing or whatever.
I do want to establish when they do like, because like Squirrel Girl's not really on board, and he's like he's gonna kill all the squirrels too, and then Squirrel Girl's not the squirrels, and then there's this great panel of her like calling out with like her hands over her thing, she's like chee-chee, like trying to call the squirrels. I don't know why her call to the squirrels. Does that hold up? Is that still in the current Squirrel Girl? Is that how she calls her squirrels?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
It's
she can
adorable.
call squirrels.
It's adorable
Yeah.
how she does that. Paul Pelletier,
Well, and
doing
the
great.
squirrels, very, very great. The squirrels do show up to help her, and there's like a new squirrel that shows up and helps beat one of the villains, or like takes down Maelstrom finally.
It takes down Machete.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thank you. Takes down Machete. And so Squirrel Girl says, "Hey, I'm gonna name you Tippy Toe, or maybe Monkey Joe too." But I think they settle on Tippy Toe because I'm pretty
Tippy-Toe's
sure it's
back
still
next
Tippy
issue.
Toe
Yeah.
in the comics. Yeah. And Doorman dies also. Like he gets sucked through this big portal, but then he comes back as the Angel of Death because I'm not sure why Death Urge isn't the Angel of Death anymore, or maybe he's just another Angel of Death. But anyways, Doorman, one of the members of the team, dies, but he's not totally dead. So technically, in every single issue, a member of the team has died. Yeah. And at the end
Squirrel
of this
Girl's
issue,
fighting, and she's like, "This one's for Monkey Joe," and then has a little pull out of Monkey Joe's little angel ghost, and it has a little. The ghost of Monkey Joe says, "Whatever, it's not going to bring me back. You do what you want to do."
So they save the day, beat the supervillain, and there is why does Mr. Immortal shoot himself in the head? Oh yeah, to convince Maelstrom.
We shouldn't gloss over because I love this.
It is a great moment. You want to tell it, Chris?
Sure. So basically, Mr. Immortal convinces Maelstrom of the error of his ways, but he's like, "Well, I know this gun can't hurt you," so he just puts a gun to his own head and shoots himself. And Maelstrom is like, "Oh shit."
This guy's serious. Yes, he's right then. And then Maelstrom like zaps his own head off, right?
Yep.
Oh boy, what a great way to beat the villain. Just convince him that suicide is the right answer.
It's like Fallout 3 or Fallout 4 or Fallout New Vegas.
Really?
Yeah, you can win. You can kill. You can get the final boss to convince him to kill himself. That's how you can win that video game.
Wow.
Bonkers, right?
Very, very. So
he's a robot and your son. Spoiler alert.
So the end of this issue has the Great Lakes Avengers. They're all sitting around like, "Hey, that was fun." Also I learned. That's what it was. That's what the whole flashback thing with Death Urge was. That Death Urge says, "Hey, Mr. Immortal, you're a mutant. That's why you can't die." And so Mr. Immortal is like talking to the team, saying like, "Hey, I learned I was a mutant." And Flatman's like, "Oh, I'm a mutant too." And Doorman's like, "Yeah, me too." And Squirrel Girl says, "Yeah, so am I." And Big Bertha says, "Hey, me too." And they go, "Wait, we're all mutants? Hey, let's stop being the Great Lakes Avengers. Let's be the Great Lakes X-Men." And this issue ends with maybe my favorite panel of the whole thing, because it's such a great parody of like what the X-Men were dressed as sort of during the Grant Morrison era, with Big Bertha in Emma Frost's very revealing outfit. Big Bertha is kind of like the Beast character. Mr. Immortal has Cyclops like glasses on. They've all got like the leather thing happening. Doorman looks like Storm, kind of, or what's his? I can't tell exactly.
Maybe a little Rogue.
Maybe more a Jubilee. Oh, Rogue, yeah.
Jubilee coat. That's right.
Jubiloog?
Jubilee coat. Jubiloog.
Jubilee coat. Jubiloog. And Flatman, just kind of generic leather stuff. I like that panel a lot.
It's a good panel. And it's also got my favorite thing, which is funny credits. So the writer was Monkey Dan. Penciler is Monkey Paul.
I didn't read that.
And the editor-in-chief is Monkey Joe. Monkey Joe Quesada.
Oh, yeah, Joe Quesada. Yeah. Also, instead of a Monkey Joe says at the very end, we get a Tippy Toe says. She's dancing. And she says, "Enough with all the doom and gloom. Let's dance." Aw, how nice. Nice to have you, Tippy Toe. Great character. So
is Tippy Toe still
now
around?
You understand. I'm pretty sure she's still around in the current Squirrel Girl comics. I could be mistaken, but
I'm not caught up. But yeah, she is in at least the first volume of the Squirrel Girl series.
All right.
Yeah, it's great. If you're not reading Squirrel Girl, read Squirrel Girl. That's a tough name to say 3 times fast. Vince, you try it.
The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl.
No, just Squirrel Girl.
Squirrel Girl. Squirrel Girl. This is great radio, guys.
Rural juror.
The rural juror, the rural squirrel juror.
Anyways, now you understand why it was so confusing at the beginning when we mentioned that we are reading the Great Lakes X-Men Christmas special, because now they are the X-Men, and boy, we have a Christmas special for you. This thing is it's a little bit bigger. It's a 40-page special, and a bunch of different artists doing each of the little mini stories in it.
It's a great title. Because I remember after reading the GLA mini, I was like, we need to have some more GLA. That was kind of sad that it was just 4 issues. And then I was like, oh, the GLX, man, okay, that's fine. And then I saw in the solicitations, GLX-Mas. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do this.
Perfect.
It's a perfect pun title. It's got a great cover with a bunch of Big Bertha Santa with the reindeers who are squirrels with reindeer antlers pulling the sleigh. Mm-hmm. It's just great.
It's beautiful.
Squirrel Girl is Rudolph.
Mm-hmm. And as previous, she introduces the issue again, and she's like, you know what? If you don't like it, there's a Punisher Christmas special. Go read that instead. It's fine.
And we did read that, and it's not.
We did read that.
It's
not
bad.
fine. Yeah, this was way better. But all the little mini stories in this book do connect. Squirrel Girl goes out to get eggnog, and it's the name of the story: eggnog, toilet paper, and peace on Earth. But she gets distracted by Dum Dum Dugan.
She flies. She's got a new plane. She's got a new plane called the Squirrely Bird.
I really love that when she runs into Dum Dum Dugan, her only reference point for him is her Versus card. Do you guys remember this game? It was sort of like a Magic the Gathering style collectible card game. I loved it. I even won a tournament that only 4 people showed up to. But it was a great time. Yeah,
this is far less nerdier than the Hero Clicks.
Oh yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I never won one of those because people showed up to those things.
Yeah. No, I went to an anime convention with my girlfriend at the time, and I was like, I don't know if I want to go to this thing. Hey, look, there'll be a Versus thing. Yeah, sure, I'll go do that. And so it was in this room where everyone else was paying attention to the anime stuff, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna play Versus. It was not a very. I didn't feel good with myself, and after that win, I think I stopped playing.
Were you the oldest person there?
Anyways. No, I feel like everybody was about my age at the time.
Were they overweight nerds in their 30s that live with their parents?
Oh, I think we were all kind of skinny, scrawny nerds at the time. This is before I got overweight again. Yeah, good time.
Kia's not overweight, by the way, guys.
Just all right, debatable.
So this is also the first, I think, the Some of Our Friends Read Comics debut of the machine designed only for killing, MODOK.
Wait. Really? Is this his first time in a book that we're talking about?
I think we've hinted at MODOK. I don't think we've seen MODOK.
Maybe. We've definitely talked about it. Yeah, this guy's great. MODOK. He's a giant head thing with tiny baby arms, tiny baby feet that floats around in a giant...
He's kind of like Krang.
He's a lot like Krang. Yeah. He's crazy. And he's so funny these days. He's been showing up recently in Gwenpool, which is a really funny book. But yeah, this poor guy, always the butt of every joke. And Squirrel Girl shows up, manages to defeat MODOK all on her own. Good job, Squirrel Girl. But she forgot the toilet paper. She's got to go back out for toilet paper. Oh no.
And when she goes out for toilet paper, she's going to fight. Oh, no, we don't get to fight. She's going to fight Thanos.
Oh, Thanos shows up. Oh, brother. But that's okay. We're going on to the next story, which is Days of Xmas Past, starring Mr. Immortal. This is the sweet one that we were talking about earlier, where he is kind of remembering his last few Christmases with Dina Sore, goes to visit her grave. Goes to visit the grave of his ex-girlfriend on one of the Christmases, and Dina Sore is there, and he gives her this flute so they can communicate, and so that's when they sort of first start bonding together. And then it goes through their other Christmases together, having a good time. And so he's, really depressed and sad this Christmas. And, hey, they get word that a whole bunch of Christmas trees have come to life and are attacking. And Mr. Immortal kind of, snaps back out of it and realizes, hey, this is how we're going to beat all these Christmas trees. He gets blasted into somebody's home. And it's a Christmas tree that's also evil, but it has not come to life because it's been weighed down by the weight of all of the trimming, the ornaments and the wreaths and everything.
This is a dumb
And so he
book,
says,
and I
"Hey,
love it.
it's a really dumb book, a really dumb solution for how to beat the Christmas trees." He goes back to the team and says, "Hey, weigh them down with decorations." And so that's how they beat the Christmas trees. All right,
And
fine,
I really
whatever.
love the cutaway. They're like, man, I wish Squirrel Girl was here, and then just cut to her like just brushing her hands, like just beat Thanos.
Yep. I love the little touch of Uatu, the Watcher, who shows up and says, "Hey, you did it! You saved the entire multiverse all by yourself." And I can guarantee that it was the one true Thanos, not a robot, a clone, or a simulacrum. I love those little moments.
I
like
love
that.
this like undercurrent that like Squirrel Girl is like secretly like the best superhero in the world.
It reminds me a lot of I really liked I didn't necessarily like it, but there was a Spider-Man Deadpool issue recently that Scott Aukerman from Comedy Bang Bang wrote, and they like passed through the set of Comedy Bang Bang, and he says, "Hey, I can confirm now that canonically Comedy Bang Bang is my favorite TV show." Which is like always a funny thing to do in a comedy book where you have your main character like, just do something stupid and say, "This is canon now. Fucking deal with it." It's beautiful. And so Squirrel Girl has beaten Thanos all on her own, and we don't know how. And yeah, I really like that story. But again, the touching moment of this story is when, Mr. Immortal has saved the day, and he's, remembering Dina. He goes back to her grave at the end and kind of plays the flute at her. Yeah, very touching stuff.
This book does a really good job. Both of these books do a really good job of like passage of time really quickly and like showing a whole relationship like in 4 panels. They do a really good job of like depicting that flow. Again, if you're a comic book writer or aspiring comic book writer, maybe this is something you should reference for real.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. The next story is just 2 pages, but it's so perfect. It's Grasshopper. What? I thought he was dead. No, it's a new Grasshopper. It's his brother-in-law, or like the brother-in-law of this girl that he's just saved.
I don't know. You're like, okay, there's a new Grasshopper. Wait, okay, it's over?
It's, again, very Steve Ditko style, where it's all this exposition, like, oh, it's, probably because I'm a different Grasshopper. Oh, this guy, and like goes through his whole origin in the span of a single thought bubble. Like that kind of thing is beautiful.
Our love can never be. I have to jump away.
Yeah. And
so he jumps away, and you're like, cool.
Yeah, the story ends with a caption that says, "And it's not over yet, true believers. Keep your eyes peeled for even more of the ever-gregarious Grasshopper, the hottest new star in the Marvel U." And I love it. I can't wait to see more of this guy. Anyways, the next story is a fun one with, not fun at all, really, with Doorman.
This is the story that got me. It got me 10 years ago. It got me
maybe
now.
my favorite one of the whole thing. Yeah. Doorman goes back home to visit his dad. And his dad does not respect his choice to be a superhero.
We never even saw Doorman out of costume in the previous book.
Yeah, and so it's it's like very surprising to see him turn back into a regular human being. He goes and visits his dad, and his dad is like, not very nice to him.
He's not very nice, and like the only thing he wants to talk about is his neighbor's piece of shit. The Christmas lights. He's like, I've got better Christmas lights. The neighbor's a piece of shit.
Yeah, Christmas lights all around the outside of the home. Nothing on the inside though, because it's all for show. And he's like, hey, trying to tell his dad like, oh, now the angel of death, I died, but I can't do it. But like he goes to the bathroom, and while he's in the bathroom, he has to like jet away to go, take a few souls.
Yeah, and his dad's like, I didn't. His dad's like, I didn't, put you through college and sacrifice for all this shit so you could be a stupid superhero in Wisconsin. Like, you should have been like, something successful. Like, why are you doing this? And it's like, I guess that's legit, but it's also like a son like wanting the approval of his dad for something that he thinks he's doing cool and like good for the world. Like, it's a nice, sweet story.
Yeah. So Doorman, he jets off for a second to go take these souls. There's some guy who's hung himself, and go, it's your time. There's some guy who was drunk driving, and he crashes into a tree, and so he gets taken away. There's, oh no, Grasshopper, what? It's the quote here. It was my first time in the suit. How was I supposed to know that maximum jump would launch me into outer space? It's your time, Neil. Sorry. This sucks. Oh,
It's
poor
so great.
Grasshopper.
It's
He was
so
gonna
great.
be honest star.
This is such a great like later payoff joke because you're like, why am I reading this grasshopper story? Like this is oh, okay, that's funny.
Is this guy? Yeah.
And it's also like I didn't comment on the last thing. It's really fun to see like the ghost of the person leaving their body going with the angel of death, either Death Urge or Doorman. And it's fun to see them like, oh no, I didn't want to die. I'm like, that like final moment, like after they're already dead, of like the character realizing they're dead and they're going on.
Yeah.
Like it's a nice moment. Every single one of those characters has like be it Mr. Immortal's mom or be it Mr. Immortal's girlfriend or Monkey Joe. Like it's really nice to just see them have their final moment.
Yeah, yeah. He also runs into Santa Claus, not to kill him or anything, but because they both operate in the same dimension. And he's like, "Hey, Santa, I could really use a big Christmas miracle for my dad here. Can you do anything?" Santa's like, "Nope, I'm out of here." All right, bye. Oh yeah, he says, "Sorry, tomorrow's my biggest time of the year. I gotta get out of here." But yeah. So he shows up back home, and Dad is like, "Hey, Damar, where are you, son?" And Doorman shows back up, and he's like, "Hey, I died. I came back as the Angel of Death, and now I'm here for you." Because his dad died while putting up Christmas tree lights, and he's been dead this whole time. What? M. Night Shyamalan, did you write this comic book? Oh my God, what a twist. And
it did get me though. It really did.
It did get me too. I was like, "Whoa, holy
the panel, because it's like Doorman and his dad, but I guess his dad's ghost looking over his dad's dead body, just sitting outside the house next to the Christmas lights, next to the ladder. Like it's a really great panel. It's really well done.
Yeah. It does a good job of sort of, you see that his dad, like, oh, all this stuff is real. Like, it's real life, the superhero business. But also he real proud of it. Like, oh, wait, I'll tell my relatives, my boy's the Angel of Death. And so he's finally proud of it. Which is a really nice ending.
Right. I really like it as just kind of like a Twilight Zone story
Yeah.
in a universe full of like superheroes and crazy shit.
Yeah, yeah. It works really well. So good.
I wish there were more GLX-Mas specials.
I want more of these. I want more of the GLX. Oh, so sad.
And then this next one was just like itchy and
Deadpool
scratchy.
ruined everything.
Yeah. So the next story is a crazy, itchy and scratchy, very Looney Tunes style kind of book with Death Urge, who is now in the Squirrel Death Ghost Angel of Death form. I guess, why is he stuck like that? I don't know.
He's been replaced.
Oh, that's right.
True. Yeah, he works. Yeah, he works now for Oblivion, the Lord of Darkness, whoever this guy is. He looks like Spider-Man with a purple rag on his head. I don't know.
He's one of, if everybody saw Doctor Strange, he's one of those guys. Not Dormammu, but a different one.
Oh,
okay.
snip,
Right.
snap.
All right. And he says, "All right, well, you failed to get me Squirrel Girl's soul, or whoever. You got me Monkey Joe's soul. That's it. But what is it? He found a way to the great beyond without you, Death Urge? Like, I don't understand what that is. Did I miss something, or is this just like a stupid conceit to set up the story?
I think it's
where
just
they
a
say,
stupid
hey,
conceit.
you didn't... Okay, cool. He's like, you didn't get me Monkey Joe's soul. Go get me another squirrel soul now. And so Death Urge says, all right, I'll go get you Tippy Toes soul, the new one. And there's this crazy like setup where Squirrel Girl's like, hey, I'm going out. Will you watch out? Keep an eye on Tippy Toe for me? Oh yeah, you already helped me beat Thanos and MODOK today. You deserve a day off. Stay at home. So Tippy Toe is looking for a nut, which is like this big Rube Goldberg machine type trap and a bunch of like other like, oh, never mind. It's not Rube Goldberg at all. It's like cannons with spikes and axes sticking out of them, all this sort of shit. Classic Looney Tunes style danger. She goes for the nuts, but you know what? Mr. Immortal is keeping a watchful eye. He goes and he gets hit by all of the shit. Poor Mr. Immortal. That panel of him running around with a spear through his belly, piranhas and little tiny shark things gnawing at him, a snake around his neck. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's more than Death Urge had even planned.
Yeah. Like, where did that snake even come from? That's kind of impressive. And I was like, oh wait, there's one more trap left that didn't go off, and Tippy Toe's going for it. It's a nut hanging by a string that's going to release a crossbow, but he has to do it by midnight, or else it doesn't count. And the clock is ticking. We see that clock ticking to midnight. She's tugging on the thing. The crossbow releases right as the clock hits midnight, and the cuckoo jumps out of the clock, and the arrow hits the cuckoo. Man, what a wonderful payoff for that, because it's so, we're just watching the clock thinking it's all about the timing issue, but it's really about the little cuckoo bird that's going to catch the arrow.
And I love it too, because then Oblivion, he tries to give Oblivion the cuckoo with an arrow through it.
Yeah, his line. Yeah, look, I'm not accepting this.
And he's got that womp womp look on his face.
Yeah. But it's okay. Tippy Toe is gonna make friends with Death Urge and give him a nice nut. Oh, how nice. Maybe this plane of existence ain't so bad after all. As Tippy Toe lights the fuse on the nut at the end. Beautiful little story. And then I think, oh yeah, this is our last story where they see a shooting star. The team's all together again. They're like, oh, what a nice day. They see a shooting star off in the distance, and Doorman realizes that it's Grasshopper's corpse burning up on re-entry, but he decides not to say anything because it's such a nice moment. How lovely. Oh wait, that's not technically our last story, because there's a little cutout at the end. Get your very own Flatman action figure that you can just cut out. I love his catchphrases. Let's go, team. That's flat-tacular. I'm not Mr. Fantastic. Beautiful.
Which this makes me sad, because this was Mike Waringo's art on the Flatman action figure.
Oh, R.I.P. Mike Waringo.
Yep.
Oh, he died?
Yeah, like within a year of this.
Yeah, like 10 years ago, unfortunately.
I did not know that. Oh, geez. Poor guy. Yeah. Nick Ringo, great artist. But yeah, that was his art on this last page here. Tippy Toe says, remember, always get your parents' permission before using scissors. Mr. Immortal is in the background. Scissors right through his chest. Not again. Oh, poor Mr. Immortal. Poor Mr. Immortal.
What a great
boy. Yeah. In case we haven't gushed enough about this thing, great. Amazing. Go read it. The GLX. Man, again, I do wish there was more of them out there, but if you want something similar to this, just read Squirrel Girl. It's the stuff that's out there right now, and it's still amazing. Not really the same humorous style as this, but still really, really funny. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, some of it is that the Death Urge, the cartoonishness of some of that reminds me of it. It's not as bleak as Mr. Immortal humor.
Definitely.
Yeah, this
Definitely
book is bleak.
Yeah, but in a good way. It's okay to put some bleak in your life. Yeah, not a big deal at all.
I would say if you want to read something bleak, although Chris, I don't think agreed, in a similar tone, Ecstatics is really good for this. The Peter Milligan book.
It's good. It really annoyed me 15 years ago. It's good, though.
Yeah, and I can see that. Yeah, they canceled an existing lineup, just started over with a weird whole new thing. Yeah, it's a nice big long lineup. Started with X-Force, went into Ecstatics. Great. I love it. Yeah, not a lot of stuff that's super similar to this, but we did talk about Next Wave a few episodes back. Or was that the last episode?
2 episodes ago.
Yeah. Also, that similar kind of superhero team from this era, comedic type of book. But we have been doing a lot of modern stuff recently. I think it's time to get back to the classics. Some of the classics that we haven't read. I think it's time for some Alan Moore again, you guys. We are going to talk about...
I think I've read it if it's Alan Moore. I hate to correct you.
Actually, yeah. I should say, I think I'm the only one who hasn't read this first volume. We're going to talk about Alan Moore's Swamp Thing from the early 80s. It's you can find it under the trades. It's called just Volume 1 of Saga of the Swamp Thing. I'm really excited to read this. I've always been very intrigued by Swamp Thing and kind of how it ties into DC Universe, this kind of horror comics thing from the 1980s. I can't wait. So, yeah, we're going to do this. It'll be a good time. But before we go, any last words on the GLA, gentlemen?
No, but I really enjoyed it. It was fun to do this walk down memory lane again. I will say happy holidays, Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year. I think this is our last episode of the calendar year, right?
Oh, I think you're right. Holy shit, yeah. Chris, what do you got? It better be just as heartfelt as Vince's holiday message.
Yeah, this book was really good. It hit me with unexpected emotion as I was rereading it. So good for it, I guess.
Yeah, good for it.
Man,
and hey,
I really
if
wish
ever
there
a
were
time-
more comics like this. Like that, I think this is what I was hoping for when we read the Punisher Christmas books last year. You know, it was like kind of like that bleak but like kind of hopefulness of Christmas, and it didn't really pan out. That GLX-Mas though, it's such a well-made like series of books. I wish there were more like little anthology short story things like that for like a team of characters. I think that's a really good model. Like you could do that with the Avengers and just have like 8 5-page stories or whatever, or 5 8-page stories.
Yeah. It works really well. There are some kind of like that out there, but none that I know of that really do it as well as this thing. But you know, I'm sure we'll get to them at some point. It'll be a good time. So come back and join us again, won't you? Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that good stuff. Happy New Year. We'll see you in 2017 with some Swamp Thing. What a way to start the new year with some really scary comics.
Drain the swamp.
Drain swamp.
Drain the... God damn it. All right, I'm done. Let's get out of here. Bye, everybody.